Good morning. I'm John Ellsworth with Success Strategies. I'm the founder of Success Strategies Incorporated and the creator of the Success Strategies Advantage. And I want to welcome you to today's presentation, which I have entitled Fighting an Uphill Battle. Sometimes in our industry, it feels like we're fighting an uphill battle, doesn't it? Especially the last 4 or 5 years. But I want to talk just briefly about the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, apparently made some comments at World Dairy Expo that I'm not saying they were taken out of context, but he made some comments on family farms, and I'm not defending his comments, but his question was, in fact, I wasn't even there. So I'm not defending his comments, but his question was, can the family farm survive? I have some good news for you, folks. My clients milk between 400 cows and 10,000 cows, and they all have one thing in common. They are family farms. They are family owned. Now, I will point out that some of them are S corporations, some of them are C corporations, some of them are LLCs, which stands for limited liability corporations. But the reality is, they're all family farms. They're all family owned. They're all family operated. So I think, in all fairness, I believe that his comments really were directed more toward the old style, a long time ago, of where a place in our industry where 2 to 3 families, maybe a father and mother and two of their sons and their families, could live off of a dairy herd with 75 to 100 cows. Well, that may be tough to accept, but I don't know how doable that is anymore, and I think that's all he was saying, or at least that's my perception of what he was saying. I know on the West Coast, particularly in California, there are no such herds. And those with 3 or 4 families on them are milking 2 to 3,000 cows, more out of necessity than anything else. This trend goes way back to the 1960s. And you know what, if you think about it, I started consulting in 1999. There were about 60,000 US herds. And today, 21 years later, or almost 21 years later, we're down to around 40,000 herds in the US. Obviously, the herd numbers have dropped by a third in that time period, and the cows per herd, the number of cows per herd, has definitely increased. And I think that's true no matter if you're in California, New York, Georgia, wherever you are, Washington State, that's just true everywhere. They have increased. So, I'm not defending his comments, but I think we should look beyond his comments and think about the context and the content of those thoughts. I would suggest we'll be best served if we focus on the realities. We all love the Waltons, but you know what? They're not reality anymore. In fact, you can only find them on 50-year-old reruns. So, in all seriousness, I think we'll be better served if we focus on the trends that are happening and the reality associated with them. So, I want to share with you 4 ideas. Number one, I think these are realities. The future dairy industry in the US is likely going to involve fewer operations, and there will be a lot more cows per herd than we currently have. That's not saying that I want it to happen. That's not saying that it should happen. I have a feeling, I suspect, as the trends would support the last 20 to 50 years, that trend will continue. So I expect that the future of our dairy industry in the US will be fewer herds that are much larger in cow numbers. Point number two, we're going to face a lot more environmental challenges. And along with that, those of you that are dairy producers know this better than anyone, there are financial hurdles associated with it. I'm not supporting them, I'm not blaming them. I think overall we're probably better off for instilling some of these guidelines. But along with them, there are some costs associated with it. And those costs are a lot more burdensome on a small operation than they are on a larger operation who can spread those costs over more cows, more hundredweights. So that's point number two. Higher environmental challenges and the costs associated with them will be higher as well. Point number three, I think it's safe to say that automation in the dairy industry is definitely going to increase. Now, some may counter that this may help the smaller operations, maybe the 300 cow herd, or the 200 cow, maybe even the 100 cow herd, if you can automate a lot of that and reduce your labor needs. But along with that comes a lot of increased capital expenditures. Its costs could present some real challenges for smaller operations, especially due, as I just said, to these large capital expenditures. So the automation will definitely be a factor, and the cost associated with that. And point number 4, if labor becomes more expensive or becomes more scarce, this is going to increase the pressure on all operations in terms of benefit packages, workers' comp, and all of the associated things with labor. But you have to ask yourself, can the smaller operation compete? And maybe they can with just their own family labor, perhaps. I don't know, and every operation is going to be a little different. So I'm not intending to pinpoint anyone as a problem area, but I think if labor becomes more expensive or more scarce, this kind of goes along with the automation. I think it's going to be tougher on all operations, but particularly small ones. And once again, I want to conclude by saying I'm not defending Secretary Perdue's comments. As I said, I wasn't even there, but I thought it was an interesting article that I saw from the Associated Press. But I think we need to ask one question: what if he's correct? Well, I would say, first of all, family farms will continue. They just may be very different and very much larger if the trends of the last 50 years continue. I think that's safe to think about that. And what I want you to do is, given the context and the strong possibility that these trends will continue, the changes in the dairy industry, the environmental impact, the automation, and the impact of labor in our dairy industry, if those trends continue, I want you to think about one thing. Ask yourself this question: what should I do differently? There's no right or wrong answer, but the key is, if we stop and think about it, I want you to face reality, and I want you to succeed to the best of your ability within the niche that you serve. Again, I'm John Ellsworth, founder of Success Strategies Incorporated and the creator of the Success Strategies Advantage. And one thing I might suggest to you is take a look at our website, which is listed behind me on the poster behind me, and take a look at our new Success Strategies Business Navigator program. That'll be starting early next year, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. And for the low costs that's associated with that, I think you could definitely benefit from it as a business person in the dairy industry. And again, I thank you for listening today and appreciate your time. Thank you very much.